Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll be talking about why women who've experienced, and this is most women, not all, but why most women that experience a traumatic relationship, a toxic relationship, and or an abusive relationship, most of the time do not heal and don't have the opportunity to enjoy a healthy, fulfilling relationship. So that's what we'll be talking about tonight. And I'm so excited to have you join me here, whether you're joining me live, whether you watched a replay. Make sure you drop me a comment below, say hello, let me know where you're joining from. And once again, thank you for joining me. Like I said, we'll be sharing the truth about why women that have had these difficult experiences within their relationships oftentimes don't heal that. So, if you've ever experienced that, if you've ever experienced having a difficult relationship, a toxic relationship, an abusive relationship, then stick around because this is for you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If this is your first time here, once again, welcome. My name is Christina. I'm a love coach and creator of the Rewrite Your Love Story program, in where I help women who've been through abusive relationships, toxic relationships, heal and renew their trust and love so that they can finally attract the right person for a healthy and lasting relationship. And I'm super excited, once again, to have you here with me today. And for those of you, once again, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me. For those of you that have ever experienced that kind of relationship that has been traumatic in a sense, that's been abusive, that's been toxic to the core, I want to share a bit about why it's so difficult to move past and heal the wounds that these relationships leave to heal those wounds so that you can attract the right person, so that you can enjoy and build and cultivate a healthy relationship. Now, for starters, many times when women experience these difficult relationships, it can be very difficult for them to seek help, to talk about it, to feel like they can, work through it and process what they're living and what they're going through. So many women that have experienced toxic relationships, abusive relationships, that have experienced trauma within their relationships find it very difficult to even talk about it, right? So how do you process something? How do you heal something that you can't even put into words, that you haven't expressed, that you haven't worked through yourself, right? And what happens is many times women feel shame. They feel, right? They judge themselves. They fear being judged by others, and they internalize the situation. They internalize everything that happened. They might feel like this abusive relationship, this toxic relationship was what they deserved. They might feel like, they really have no one to turn to. So they internalize this. And unfortunately, right, they don't get to heal this. They don't get to work on what they're feeling and what they're going through in the moment, and they internalize it. It becomes their like deep dark secret. It becomes the shame that they live with, the guilt that they live with. And right, how do you move past that and build a healthy relationship when it's not something that you've really processed within yourself? So that's the first reason. Now, the second side of that coin is the woman that does talk about it, that talks about it so much that it becomes her identity. It becomes, right, and it's not. I don't want to downplay what happens, right, in these toxic and abusive relationships, but they adopt these women who do speak about it to the point where they're reliving it. They're constantly reliving it. They're so stuck on it that they can't let it go, right? So there's no processing of the trauma that has happened. There's no processing of the toxic relationship that has happened. There's just like a rehashing and a reliving, and it becomes their identity. It becomes who they are. They become what has happened to them. And you can see how this obviously is not processing the toxic relationship that they've been through or the toxic abusive experience that they've been through, but it's like an eternal, a perpetual reliving of what they have gone through. It becomes their identity and they can't let it go, right? It becomes a part of who they are. Now, in both of these cases, whether it's internalized, whether it's verbalized, externalized, the reality is that you're tuning into that frequency of what has happened. Whether it's the I never speak about it, I didn't really get to process it, I've internalized it, I feel guilt and shame and all the awful things that have happened to me, I carry them inside of me, right? It's that bottling up of that energy versus this is who I am, this is what happened to me, and this is what happened to me, and this is what happened to me, and this, right? So it's a hyper focus, whether it's internalized or externalized, of what has happened to you. And in a sense, it's like tuning in, right, to the radio. And you tune into the radio and you're going in to listen, right, to you're on the hip hop station expecting to hear salsa, right? There's no way that you can hear or enjoy or have or accept, right, a healthy relationship when there's a rehashing, a really big focus and like whether it's internal or external, when your main focus is what has happened and not in a way of processing it, right? It's like you're tuning in to the hip hop station expecting to hear salsa. That's not going to happen, right? You're going to continue to hear, whatever you're tuning into. So those are really the main reasons why so many women that have experienced traumatic relationships, that have experienced abuse and toxic relationships, never really heal, right? Because they either internalize it or externalize it. Now, the third part of why they never really heal is because their whole perspective on love has become skewed. And this is a layered deal, right? Because it's not just what happened to you in those awful relationships. It's not just the abuse, it's not just the trauma, it's not just what happened, it's how you think and feel about it, right? So if you've, an example, been in a toxic relationship, been in an abusive relationship, see yourself in a cycle where you continue to attract these same kind of men, the narcissistic men that, right, want to gaslight you and then make you feel shame and make you feel, right, like the victim. And once again, these are the things that are going to come up when you haven't fully healed, right? You're going to continue to attract the same kind of men. You're going to continue to have the same kind of relationships. So what happens is your whole perspective on relationships becomes skewed, not just from your personal experience, but from culture, from society, from the whole, right? The whole way that we view the world, everything that really builds your perspective and shapes your perspective. Now, obviously, right, what you've been through in your personal experience is going to take a toll on how you see the world. But how many times haven't we heard, right? All men cheat, and all men are this, and all men are that. And maybe, right, maybe you were in an abusive relationship where he didn't cheat, but that might be a belief that you adopt, right? That might be a belief that runs in your culture. I know a lot growing up in my culture, in the Latin culture, right? You saw a lot of machismo, and the man is the head of the family, and right, there was a lot that went in there, right? Like you have to do what your husband says, and if we're honest, right, these ideas contribute to shaping a lot of the ideas that we hold around relationships, especially if you grow up per se in that kind of household where, it's the machismo household, and you have to listen to your man and your partner, and you have to obey, and right, you have to make sure everything is done, or if not, your husband's gonna get mad. If you grow up in that kind of, right, mentality, and that's the norm, the way people think, then you might take that upon yourself, like, oh, well, maybe he's disrespectful to me because I didn't have the house right. Maybe, right? So you start creating and excuses for these relationships that are not functioning, these relationships that are not healthy because of preconceived ways and preconceived notions of how relationships should be. So this is another reason why a lot of women don't heal from these traumatic pasts, from these toxic relationships, from these cycles of abuse and really, once again, toxic relationships, is because it becomes so ingrained. It becomes a part of their identity. It's not something that they really take a moment to process and work through unless they go seek help, right? And once again, that's exactly why I do what I do. Because once upon a time, I was there. I was in a toxic relationship and I really didn't know how to get out of it until I got help, until I said, you know what, enough is enough. Until I said, this is not what I want for me. This is not the example that I want to set for my child. And I made a difference. I made a change. I changed. I became different. I became another woman. And the way that I started to do this was to become really intentional about what I did want in my life. All those relationships, all the men, all the dates, everything that I had been through, all of the trauma, all of the abuse, all of the experiences that I had gone through were obviously not, they weren't something that I was happy about, but I realized that there was value in my experiences, that I learned from my experiences, that I grew from my experiences. And in those experiences, I was able to get really clear on what I didn't want in my life. And that helped me get really clear on what I did want in my life, on what kind of relationships I wanted for myself, the kind of partner I wanted by my side, the kind of partner that I wanted as a part of my family, right? Because I already have a child. So these are all the things that I now help other women take into account when they're ready to break free from the cycle of patterns of abuse and toxic relationships, to really, once again, heal and renew your trust in love and renew your trust in yourself, knowing that you deserve better, knowing that you're worthy of love, of someone that loves you, cherishes you, respects you, and is committed to building a life with you. So once again, that's what I do when I help women in my Rewrite Your Love Story program. And it's exactly why I created the Ideal Partner Checklist. It really supports you in getting clear on the kind of relationship that you do want. One that's based on shared values, shared goals, so that you're not rehashing the past. You're not stuck in this cycle of toxic relationships, of do-overs of the past, but you're really focused on the future, on what you do want, and being really intentional about who you let into your life and who you share your energy and time with. So if you'd like a free copy of the Ideal Partner Checklist, drop me a comment below, drop me the word ideal in the comments, and I'll make sure that you get your free copy so that you can start shifting from the past of toxicity and abuse and trauma to really empowering yourself to what's to come, right? Let's not let our past or what has happened dictate where you're going. You cannot move forward if you are looking back. So with that said, once again, if you'd like your free copy of the Ideal Partner Checklist, drop me a comment below, drop me the word ideal in the comments, and I will make sure that you get your free copy. Because once again, know what you want, know what you deserve and what you desire, and don't never settle for less. So thank you so much once again for joining me tonight, where I shared about why most women who've experienced trauma, who've experienced toxic relationships and abuse, oftentimes never heal and oftentimes never enjoy a fulfilling relationship. But that doesn't mean that they can't, right? So with that said, if you're ready to make that shift, reach out. I'd love to support you. Don't forget to choose you, choose love, stay blessed, and I will see you soon. Bye.